Hello everyone, my name's Cohen. If you don't know me, I'm known as Block Mum in the industry. Welcome to the end of Blockchain Week. I just do want to note that last year I opened the panels. This year I'm on the sleepy afternoon of the last day. So hopefully this group of builders can keep us all awake for the next half an hour. This is a really important panel because these guys build it. Without them, we have no blockchain. So I just want to acknowledge the builders in the room and encourage more builders in the room as well. So we really want to have more builders in this industry. We need it. A lot of us non-technical people talk about building it. These guys know the actual challenges of building it. So I'm saying thank you before we even start. So I want to introduce Nick from Accubits, Lucas Cullen from dltx, one of the original OGs, Lachlan from Labrys, and Bill from ASTA. So welcome. I'll get you guys just to do a little intro on yourselves. So I'll start with Bill, thanks.
Thanks, Karen. Can you hear me? Thanks, Karen. Lovely to be here today and appreciate getting the invite. Bill Angelidis, CEO of ASTA Solutions, Web 2 to Web 3 development and infrastructure support company based out of Melbourne, Sydney, and also Auckland, looking to do something significant in Brisbane in the future.
Hey guys, Nick Kumaran from Accubits Technologies. We are a global software company based out of Washington with development offices across India, Poland, Vietnam, and Dubai. We've got 11 offices worldwide, about 300 developers, of which about 40 are dedicated to blockchain and DLT. We're quite new in Australia, and it's been, the last couple of years has seen a lot of growth for us, particularly in this sector, so glad to be here.
Hi everyone, my name's Lachlan Feeney, founder and CEO of Labrys. Labrys is a blockchain and Web3 development and consultancy agency. We're based right here in the Valley, we work with startups, enterprise, government, basically building out blockchain, Web3, NFT, metaverse solutions.
Cheers, Lockie. Cheers, Karen. Lucas from dltx. So we started the meetups back in 2013. So been building on Bitcoin since 2011. So dltx are a venture studio. Some other people up here. So we build people's dreams and deliver the nightmare.
Lucas is always the most positive influence in the room, just so you know. All right, so I was given some fantastic questions from the panelists and I've thrown them out, so I'm about to throw them some curveballs. Sorry, guys. Firstly, just because we can build it, should we build it? What should we not be building on this blockchain of ours? I'll start with Lucas because he has a strong opinion on this.
Well, great one. Don't build on BSV, we all know that. I think that's probably it. No, there's a lot of, there's a lot of good stuff to build, but I think there's a funny story this morning. Got one of these new Land Rover Discoveries. Didn't work this morning, didn't start. Called the mechanic. Apparently there's 2 batteries in them now. Apparently there's some diesel fluid thing. There's some other system on systems on systems. So I think this is where it's going. We're just building on top of all these things. Don't really know where we're going right now. And then something like an electric car will come on, which just simplifies everything. And in hindsight, it'll be so obvious. So I think that's the way it's going to go. And it's fine to build an experiment right now, layer upon layer experiment. But I think at the end of the day, something will come along and it'll be very obvious and consolidate and be a little bit more ubiquitous.
Thank you.
I think in terms of what not to build, it's our job as the builders and the consultancy agencies, when people come to us with ideas that are just bad blockchain ideas, to not take their money and actually explain that there are good use cases and bad use cases for blockchain technology. Blockchain is all about distributing data as far and wide as possible and making it as available as possible. That's how you get the blockchain value proposition. So there's a lot of misconceptions about security in the blockchain space, and that blockchain's a very secure system. It is, but if your concern with security is to lock something up in a vault, blockchain's a terrible use case for that. I think a lot of the common misconceptions are, let's just take this existing legacy system that's all built in like a relational database and just dump all of that data on the chain. Terrible use case. I think it's up to the builders, it's up to the consultants to actually, when new blockchain concepts are proposed, rather than just trying to take a legacy system and dump it on the blockchain, actually have a think about what data actually needs to be on the blockchain and what doesn't. And unfortunately, that requires a bit of an architecture or re-architecture. But yeah, very important distinction.
I would 100% agree with that. And I think, when I saw that question, I sort of thought back to similar to what you said. If we're going to take legacy systems and put them onto the blockchain, that seems like a very expensive thing to do for not much gain. I went a little bit further when I thought about it and started to remember the whole conversation we had about ethical AI and saw how fast we're sort of running with the metaverse and trying to think, just because we can build all these worlds on demand almost doesn't mean that we really should. Are we potentially setting ourselves up for worlds that are going to move really, really quickly without, obviously it's a little bit opposite to the whole decentralization side, but how do we cope with things that could be potentially happening that shouldn't be in these random worlds on demand? So I think there's more questions about the ethics behind some of the things that we need to do. And as you said, that comes back onto us, the practitioners, the consultants, the people with the knowledge and, possibly I'm not going to say greater foresight, but just the scenario-based thinking to see what could potentially happen in these situations that we need to start developing mitigations for, whether they're, I actually don't have the answer. I'll tell you right now. I'm in sales, guys, not a technologist, so thanks.
No, I couldn't agree more with what the guys just said. The only thing to say is, as builders, we have an extra responsibility, and that's the education part. People come in and share ideas and want the blockchain for various reasons, and we certainly get more inquiries and attention when the Bitcoin price is higher. But the first step is to educate, right? So part of our job is to make sure that we put you on the right track in terms of why you should use this hammer called blockchain to hit that nail, or why not. So it's not for everything, and that's part of our job.
Yeah, we do have a massive responsibility here, and I do get really bad ideas every day. People ring me and go, I want to put this on the blockchain. I'm like, why? And that's really got to be our first question, before we just say yes. And you guys have, really pointed out the idea of responsibility. You're the builders. Whatever you build stays there forever. I'm going to ask you, each of you, the best application you've built so far and why. So start with Bill. I know what the answer is, but I'll let you say it.
Really? There's been a number. Probably the one that we're currently building, and I encourage all of you to have a look at the InsurTech platform called Day by Day, where we're building a decentralized insurance industry, with the ability for everyone to play part. So you can own an insurance policy that creates passive income for you. You can provide funding, crowdfunding, if you like, in a decentralized finance manner to earn an investment, a percentage, and you can get yourself cheaper insurance. So we're estimating at the moment 40 to 50% cheaper insurance that is personalised and on demand. So you can insure something for a day, you can insure something for a week or 6 months or 3 years, all up to you based on how you want to do it, and directly off an app. No brokers, no intermediaries, and no insurance companies. So completely on the blockchain, including your assets.
I love that. We've got a similar project that we're working on in a specific type of insurance, though. Probably not your general insurance. If I was to answer what my favorite project, I'll say, is Accubits that we've done, there's quite a few that have really had, I guess, a lot of impact. I think the first one that comes to mind is we actually created the first productionized blockchain system for the Dubai Land Registry that managed to digitize their land titles. We created 4 different use cases there. They then invited us to come back and build a decentralized data marketplace for them as well. So that was, I think, the second or third productionized blockchain system there. The one I'm probably most proud of that the team at Accubits have done is a project called ChainSat, which I'd encourage everyone to have a look at that. Essentially, what we've done is created a proprietary blockchain platform that we're launching on a satellite. We announced that last year. Tesla had a few issues with their satellites, so we're waiting for the next launch date. We're hosting an Ethereum node on there, and we're hosting a couple of other nodes for some of our clients. And we've also worked with a device manufacturer, which is essentially kind of like a satellite modem, which will allow you to, if you can think about it hypothetically, you could probably complete your cryptocurrency transactions without touching the terrestrial internet. You can see the implications for that, which could potentially mean that we could sort of bypass a lot of regulations and the jurisdiction of space. Again, that comes back to, obviously we know the clients that we're working with and we're keeping a lid on that, which is kind of, again, opposite to the whole decentralization thing, but we have that ethical responsibility to make sure it's used in the right way, and we're seeing what that technology could get us in a very measured way.
My favorite project, I guess it depends. Like we've done a lot of like fun gaming products, GameFi, DeFi, and NFT projects at Labrys, which are probably the more fun projects to work on. But in terms of a project that I'm probably most proud of, Labrys has been working for over 2 years now with Downer Group here in Australia, and we've been building out a monumental enterprise blockchain system for them to help with the mining maintenance services that they provide across mining sites all across Australia, and basically helping them improve efficiencies within those processes, and this is a full production solution that will be used day to day by Downer, and is certainly getting closer and closer to completion. So yeah, the NFT projects are always fun, but it's the enterprise projects that are really the challenging ones, and I guess the most the ones that you're sort of most proud of once you finally pull them off.
I've worked on a significant amount of projects. Obviously, all our client work is awesome, but I guess for me, the real premise of blockchain here is about peer-to-peer transactions without intermediaries. So, 2017 or 2016, I was on the virtual poker spoke with Consensus. So that's distributed poker on blockchain. We obviously started out building purely on Ethereum, but the challenges there. Really proud of that project. There's a lot of problems that tries to be solved with distributed poker, and it's analogous for a lot of domain problems about how to do peer-to-peer, how to make a turn-based protocol, money involved, all kinds of things. And the other one, which we do in our spare time, which we haven't done so much, is the library project. Again, I'm really passionate about that. So it's a decentralized YouTube version, and I believe with a lot more censorship coming out, I think these technologies are going to be prevalent. So I really encourage to look at these other protocols. If you have a problem with big tech, there are now alternative solutions, and they are getting quite mainstream.
Thank you, Lucas. So one of the things that I've noticed, obviously, and unless you've been living under a rock, you would have noticed too, is there's just not enough devs in this space. I've taken a role to bring more devs into this space with the AlgoHUB, so building more devs into Algorand using Reach programming language and Python. Reach works both with Algorand and Ethereum, so it's a really good language to begin with if anyone wants to learn. We're doing a hackathon next week. What are some of the challenges you guys have had with bringing in talent and storing talent, keeping talent alive as dev houses? I'll start with you, Bill.
Thanks, Karen. That's probably the number one challenge, to be honest. We talked a bit about what projects to do and what not to do. And I reckon there's a high percentage of devs that could be working on real projects, working on fuddy-duddy projects, because funding is available. One of the foundations has provided funding for a grant to somebody. The idea hasn't probably been vetted well, and we've now sucked in 4 or 5 devs to develop that particular application, which will not have a huge use case into the future or provide any real value. So we're missing people in that space. They're getting sucked into that. We have started training our own. So we reached out to universities, and I'm going to say that this year we're going to reach out into high schools and start bringing in devs as early as possible and training them from scratch. I look up there, I see my CTO, and he's nodding wildly because he's responsible for bringing them on that journey. And the reality is they don't exist, guys. I saw a stat that said if every dev in the world today that hasn't retired yet was moved into blockchain projects, the blockchain project will still be half full, all right? And I thought that's pretty scary. So if you've got kids or people who are interested in dev, encourage them, because I think there's a big future in that.
I think we have a blessing of being a global company. obviously Accubits is predominantly got our development houses in India and Dubai and Poland. So given we've got access to about 40 devs, we're a little bit insulated in the sense that we can take on a lot of the project demand that comes our way. But to be completely honest, the issues that you're facing with devs in Australia and possibly that lack of the availability is still there as well. We still struggle sometimes. I guess specific to one project we had on Cardano, we were not able to find anyone with any Haskell experience apart from a maths professor. But we're also reaching out to universities and starting our cadetship program, specifically the ones in India, obviously, because we have the greater access to them. I'd probably encourage everyone, obviously, if you're going to engage an offshore development company, there's ways to engage with them. We can definitely help from a resourcing perspective, but it's not the same as having a developer, right next to you or consultants right next to you. And those are things that, they're not things that prevent great work from getting done. They're just things that need to be managed differently. If it's one of those things where I'd say if you're struggling to get devs, don't be afraid to look outside Australia. Bring some of that knowledge in. I know the Victorian government, for example, I'm based in Melbourne, actually helps companies bring knowledge into Australia, and it actually gives you grants to get people into here. So they'll provide assistance with sponsorship. If you find a great dev that you think would work well in Australia and would work well for your company, you can approach the government, and they have these sort of I guess incentives to bring foreign investment and foreign companies in. And I guess if you're having those issues, maybe reach out to your government and see if they can assist as well. There's definitely programs that can help.
Yeah, access to good quality developers is definitely the number one challenge to my business, Labrys, at the moment. We're based here in the Valley. All of our developers are here in the Valley. We don't outsource any development overseas or anywhere else. And so, this is a major challenge for us. And we want to be able to scale up our business here in Brisbane with Brisbane-based developers. But if we're going to be able to do that, then we need some serious change sort of as to how we approach, training and filling out capabilities and skill sets within the industries. Like at Labrys, we train up our developers in-house because that's really the only choice we have at the moment. But that's just not going to cut it in the long run. There's only so much of that you can do. The universities need to be doing more. I know some universities now have blockchain courses built in, but to me, it's honestly crazy that we're in 2022 and it's still not a core part of information technology degrees at universities across the country. This is going to be one of the biggest sectors over the next decade and one of the most in-demand skill sets over the next decade. And we're not teaching university students about it. The same for governments as well, like state governments, federal governments, more needs to be done.
I'm just going to blame SwiftX. Guys, you guys are beasts, just sucking all the developers. Well, you got kombucha on tap now. Give me a break. How are we supposed to compete with that? But no, there's a lot like luckily we've got a lot of developers. They're all Brisbane based. There's a lot of other agencies and exchanges now up in Brisbane. So there's there is obviously a demand for developers. But I think as we've seen this before, when iOS came out, there's a lot of iOS developers. There was a shortage. Technologies come and go. It's not, again, with this space, there's it's a bit of a smorgasbord. There's, now with the NFT stuff, there's requirements or demands for more the arty based people. With the metaverse, there's Unity and those kind of frameworks as well. So as it's exploding, there's also lots of different tentacles growing in it, not just that core cryptography backend based stuff now. So it's really exciting. And not only that, there's an explosion in languages, protocols on Rust, Go, the list just goes on and on. There's a renaissance back in C and C++ for miners. Whoever's done C in the last 20 years, but now there's a demand on that. So it's a really exciting time. So if you're a developer, definitely get involved. There's a smorgasbord of projects, but it is not for everyone too. So you got to remember that we might think of it as the future, but some developers might go, this isn't for me, it's just too hard, or I want to work on other technologies or other domains.
Thanks. I think, training our own is really important. As a recruiter in this space, the amount of people that say that everyone needs to have all these skills before we'll hire them, that's just got to stop. We need to just put people in self-learning for a couple of weeks or a couple of months and give them experience and let them go. And if you lose them, you lose them, but you're creating and investing in the future of technology. We've got to stop as employers expecting every single skill to be ticked before we hire. It's just not going to happen. Sorry, this is the recruiter in me.
I just got told off. I felt like you were telling me off.
No, I'm not. You're training your own, you're okay. You're good. So, just from my perspective, I was recently asked to log on to a streaming program called restream.io, which is like Zoom, but it restreams onto your Twitter, it restreams onto your YouTube. Sounds fabulous. First thing that I had to tick was, we're going to take over your Twitter. We're going to own all of your usernames. We're going to own all of your contacts. Would you still like to proceed? And I'm like, my mouse is hovering at this point in time, right? So here we are, we're Web3 and we're still using Web2 and we're still giving our data away. We're still, what is happening in this space with Web2 and Web3? I'm going to hand over to the panel. How important is continuing to use Web2 in this Web3 world? Bill, I'm going to start with you.
Thanks, Karen. How important is it? I think it's transitional. So we're developing the tools to be able to develop the applications to take the leap into the Web3 world. I've heard weird and wild definitions about what Web3 is, and I don't think we've landed on something that I've agreed to anyway, and something that made sense to me. So then I have to explain it to others. So if it doesn't make sense to me, how am I going to explain it? But today, I think we have aspirational ideas about what Web3 should be. We are definitely not there. The tools to develop a true Web3 solution are still in work in progress, I reckon. I'm interested to see what you guys think about that. We do have some of them, but one of the most important things in my mind is the user experience. So what we've got today and what we're using to put solutions together is it's insane. You can't even teach professional technical people how to use Web3 intuitively. They still have to read, invent, click on buttons, sometimes Google. That's even more fun because there's hardly anything on it. So I think we've got a long way to go. So we're in transition, I reckon.
Yeah, I can't add much more to that. I guess, Web3 is still being understood, as you said. We're moving towards this decentralization of all the information, more control over your data, etc. But you can't expect the entire world to just flick that switch over and say, okay, we're Web3 now. We're going to have that interaction period or that phase period where we're going to have to figure out ways for the technologies to interact with each other and transition people over it. There's just some fundamentals like architectural differences as well. And like you said, the wild definitions of what Web3 is, like the semantic web, being able to include understanding, the implementation of AI to make sure that we can, to see data interact with each other and provide more insights. There's a long way before we get there. I see certain applications that are getting this towards it, certain research elements that are getting us towards it, but I don't see anything. Well, maybe I'm a little bit ignorant in the sales side, but I don't know we've got anything that's really truly Web3 right now that we can all hand on heart say is completely decentralized apart from the public chains. Yeah,
I think we actually have a lot of the core technologies that we need to build full Web3 applications today. I think most of those technologies already exist, and there are some pretty decentralized Web3 applications out there. The challenge is a lot of the Web2 users just don't want to use them because they're too hard to use, and they'd rather tick the terms and conditions that they don't read than install MetaMask and manage private keys and buy cryptos and all of these sorts of things. So that's where we sort of find ourselves today, and what we generally call Web 2.5, which is trying to emulate Web3 products with Web 2 technologies so that you can get the Web 2 users to kind of start to get a feel for Web3. But Web 2.5 isn't Web 3, it's Web 2, there's a lot of progress to be made there. So I think we have the technologies, we just don't have the user experience and the tools to build nice user experiences and those sorts of things. That, in my opinion, is what's in the way of us getting to a complete sort of Web3 product. But fortunately, like I don't think it's that far off, or it's an unsolvable problem. I think we will get there. I think we will sort of realize the full potential of Web3. We just have to solve the UX problem. So we've spoken a lot about today about developers and needing more developers and more engineers in the space. But the fact of the matter is there's probably also the very often neglected part of blockchain. The blockchain sector is the user experience, and we need more designers in the space as well.
Yeah, just an extension, I guess, of what Lockie and the panel have said. I think it always comes back to lawyers. They're responsible for most of the world's problems. So until we can't, we talk about this, but we still have clients coming in. I need a wet signature on a document. So until the courts and stuff recognize digital signatures, we've still got to be in this juxtaposition of these, Frankenstein of technologies. Or we can just say, let's just overthrow government and have a new path forward and don't worry about that. So the choice is up to us. So we'll discuss it at the after party, I'm sure.
I love the analogy of Web 2.5, and it's true, the user experience is still not there. I mean, I'm training a whole lot of new women into the space. They sit around my kitchen table, we download the exchange, we download the wallet, and then I tell them about, the send and receive address, and they look at me blankly like, what do you mean? What do you mean you've got to send it somewhere and receive it somewhere? And so the experience is still not there, and we still do need that Web 2. So I like the analogy, Lockie, of 2.5. How many minutes, Steve? I'm the boss. Okay, one more minute. Wrap up from our wonderful builders. One more thing you want to say?
Stick to the journey. I think we get an escalation of interest when the Bitcoin price is up, and then we go down and we fluctuate. But I really believe in a decentralized future and the ability to manage your own data, not to hide it, to manage your own data. And I'd like to see more effort into building real-world applications that allow us to do that. So stick to it and introduce as many people as you can to the decentralized future.
I'd probably say, embrace technical partners wherever you can. I think we did previously have a question about who should be doing the building. It is hard to find good developers in Australia. It's actually hard to find good developers everywhere. So reach out, whether it's onshore, offshore, blended model. If you need the knowledge, don't get stuck in trying to hire expensive resources before you've proven your product market fit. Use a technical partner, get your MVP out there, think lean, then scale from there.
Yeah, I just encourage everyone, I know most of you here today are already in the blockchain industry, but if you're on the outskirts or thinking about blockchain, just jump in, get involved. That's what we need more of, not just engineers, but designers and, all aspects of business positions and business roles. There's a lot of blockchain companies scaling up at the moment, and we need more people in the space. So anyone who is interested or who's not in the space yet, please take the jump, get involved, and if you're an engineer as well looking for a job, come and see me.
Good work.
I guess for me, it's just vote with your feet. We've got a day by day app out there. I encourage people just to try it. Maybe I start unsubscribing to YouTube as I see them come onto Library. So I think we can all talk about it, but the proof of the pudding will be on how much users we get, and it's really up to everyone in this room to do that. Otherwise, it will never happen. Doesn't matter how much we build. So look for an alternative. Persist with the pain. Give feedback, and just bear with it.
Thank you to our wonderful panel of builders. Round of applause.